Hey guys, Aaron here from Nomads Nation, and welcome to episode 1 of Building a Backpack. This is a new docu-series where we are bringing you step by step through the process of building and launching a brand new backpack brand. This project is gonna be next level transparent. You're gonna see us designing the backpack, sampling the backpack, prototyping, building it, and ultimately launching, hopefully 1 year from now. If you missed our announcement video, sort of explaining all the details of the project, I highly recommend watching that, and you can find it in the link below. And if you want a next level look at this project, I'm talking behind the scenes content that I won't be publishing on YouTube, access to giveaways, and the ability to vote on some of the key features and decisions on the backpack, then you need to join the inner circle, which can be done in the first link in the description. Simply fill out your email information and you're in. Episode 1 is gonna be about figuring out the overall timeline and the costs associated with this project. And it's important to note that this is not my first time building a backpack. As I had mentioned previously, I was actually working on a different backpack brand behind the scenes for the past few years. Unfortunately, that brand didn't work out, but it's given me the knowledge and the tools to sort of know what to expect in this entire process. But it's also important to remember that plans and projected costs can be complete sometimes. We do our best to try and get everything in a direction that we think it's gonna go, and then always seems to happen. But if you're starting a project like this is a very crucial element. You need this to sort of set the tone, set the pace so you can know sort of where you're going moving forward. Let's start with the timeline. Building an exceptional technical backpack, which is what we're gonna be doing, usually takes about 1 to 2 years. And this bag in particular is gonna be a very new concept. It's gonna be a little complicated. So while I feel confident that we can maybe hit the 1-year goal, it could also take longer. And this 1 to 2 year timeline is not just from my experience, but actually check out our boys from Nomadic in their Peter McKinnon Kickstarter video, what they had to say.
You know, it takes like 1 to 2 years for us to make award-winning bags, right?
Yeah, I know, but we should probably get started then.
And in fact, in my last backpack brand, the one that never launched, it took us about 3 years. Now granted, it was our first time, and there was this thing called COVID, which kind of f***ed everything up. So for all those reasons, I feel like 1 to 1.5 years seems realistic. Fingers crossed. The first step is starting with the design of the backpack with the basic drawings, otherwise known as the concept illustration. This is where the designer, John, and myself will sort of talk, and he'll draw out some loose concepts so we can figure out what we want the backpack to look like, what direction it goes in. Once I have these initial designs, I'll be sharing them only in the email list. So if you want to be a part of the inner circle of this Building a Backpack project, be sure to click the first link in the description so you can sign up to the email list. We're hoping the concept illustration stage will take about 1 month. From there, once we have a concept, we go to the actual technical drawings. This is the 3-dimensional layout of the bag. This process is a bit more time consuming as it can take a couple of months. Then, once the technical drawings are done, we send those drawings to the factory. From there, the factory will communicate with the designer. They'll sort of ask questions back and forth until the factory's like, okay, we got this. And then the factory will make the first prototype. We're thinking this will be somewhere around the 5 to 6 month point. Now, a note on the first prototype, it's usually god awful. I can say this with experience from my first backpack. And also there's a funny blog post from Tortuga. Check out the prototype of their first backpack right here. Wow, that thing is crazy looking. But it's a crucial part of the process because then that prototype gets mailed out to myself and the designer, and we sort of tweak from there. We'll say, okay, they nailed this part, they did not nail this part, so on and so on, until we make a correction sheet, which we then send to the factory. The factory asks us questions, new prototype, etc., etc. And this process continues until you have what's referred to as either the golden sample, the marketing sample, whatever sample you want to call it, the final sample. So if the first sample will be done at around 5 to 6 months, that means that we can expect the final sample to be done somewhere between 12 to 18 months, hoping for 12, but we'll see what happens. Now, while we're doing the process of prototyping, I'll simultaneously be working on other things, mainly business stuff, marketing stuff, and logistics stuff. Business stuff will be like trademarking, business policies, and business registration. Logistics refers to mainly how we'll do shipping and finding fulfillment centers. And marketing, which is sort of my specialty, that involves branding, logo, prepping for Kickstarter, product photography, working with influencers, outreach, all that stuff. So in essence, that's the 1 year expected timeline. But ultimately, with COVID and supply chain issues, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes longer, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so now that we covered the timeline, let's talk about projected costs. Because building a business doesn't always have to be expensive. For instance, you can start a blog or a drop shipping company and spend relatively little money. A domain, hosting, and you're good to go. But a physical product like this, especially a product that's as complicated and technical as the backpack I'm trying to build, it's not gonna be cheap, or at least it depends on your particular skill set. A project like this will cost anywhere from 10,000 US dollars upwards to 60,000 US dollars and more, depending on how high of a marketing budget you want. I suspect for this project, I'll end up spending around 30 to 40,000 US dollars. Now here's why. My skill set is very much so based towards marketing. So that means that I can cut a lot of the costs needed with marketing. First of all, I have the Nomads Nation YouTube channel. That's gonna really help with marketing. Plus, over the years, I've learned a lot about SEO, video marketing, social media marketing. So those are things that I won't have to outsource. But the biggest cost that I'm going to have to outsource is with the design and with production, because those are two things that are completely out of my skill set. Now, hypothetically, I could learn how to do these things, but I'm not going to. It would take years, and this is a more efficient process. The designer I'm working with, John, is an absolute genius at what he does. He's not cheap, but you get what you pay for. But ultimately, I want to focus on the things that I'm good at and let John do the things that he's good at in the hopes that we can make the best product possible. So the cost for the design and production single-handedly is gonna run me around 20,000 US dollars. Now you can find a designer cheaper than that, and you can definitely find a designer more expensive than that. It just depends on the designer, their prices, your product, all these different factors. Some other big potential costs are going to come around the Kickstarter campaign. Because you may not know this, but a lot of Kickstarter bootstrap campaigns aren't as bootstrapped as you think they are. Many of them have huge marketing budgets, particularly when it comes to performance media marketing. Basically, there's marketing companies that work exclusively within the Kickstarter ecosystem, and they charge a lot of money for companies because they're so good at Kickstarter marketing. So a lot of these backpack brands and any Kickstarter that you find that raise millions of dollars, a lot of them are doing it with the help of a performance media company who usually charges a pretty big retainer. Some other pretty big costs are gonna be trademarking, which will be around 4,000 US dollars, product photography, which will be around 2 grand, and the cost of creating the samples, like paying the actual factory for the labor and the materials, and shipping those samples out one by one. The more samples, the more these costs add up. Now, it should be noted that if you're interested in starting your own physical products, those numbers that I'm giving out can be a little daunting, but you don't necessarily need to spend that much. Here's one way that you can avoid it: partnering up. So I'm running this company as a one-man operation, right? I'm gonna own 100% of this organization, which means that I have 100% of the equity. But if I were to find a partner who had a complementary skill set, let's say design and production, instead of paying that out of pocket, I could have a business partner save those costs and work with somebody who, like I said, has a complementing skill set. So that way you're simultaneously cutting costs and working with a partner. And another simple way to cut costs is to cut the amount of money you would put into the Kickstarter campaign, particularly into advertising and outreach. Because like I said, the media companies aren't cheap. And if you want to do like influencer outreach and get them products and pay for their time, that also adds up very quickly. And it should be noted, like, I'm not a super rich dude. I run a couple of my own businesses. I do freelance copywriting and marketing as well, but this is gonna be a chunk of money. I'm gonna feel it. But I also believe in this project, and I'm a risk taker by nature, so I'm excited to see what happens. So like I said, all things considered, I'm expecting this project to end up costing around 40,000 US dollars. Could be cheaper, could be more expensive, time will tell. And if you want to sort of follow the costs out of curiosity, or if you want to start your own product company to just get a good idea of like, what this is generally costing me, then you can check the costs on the Building a Backpack homepage. It's accessible via the email list only. So if you sign up for the email list below, you'll be a part of the inner circle and you can access the costs spreadsheet to get a deeper understanding of what this entire project is costing. So that's a wrap. That's episode 1. I think that episode 1 in terms of like content is the least thrilling. It's gonna get a lot more exciting as we actually design the backpack, start building out prototypes, sending out surveys, but chronologically speaking, this is where we start, right? Preparation is key for a successful project. So I wanted to show you how I'm preparing, looking and projecting everything so you can sort of see how it's done step by step by step. So let me know in the comments below, am I spending too much money? Can I do this cheaper? Is my timeline unrealistic? Do you think I'm gonna hit the 1 year mark? Any comments, questions, or ideas? I wanna hear what you gotta say in the comments below. I personally respond to every comment. Thank you so much. I'm Aaron. This is Nomads Nation, and we'll catch you next time for episode 2 of Building a Backpack.